Welcome to another video, everyone. Today we're going to be doing a in-depth look at walls for Beyond All Reason and some of the uses you can find for them. Now, I think this is something that is really slept on in the game because it just is not known enough about. I mean, there's a little bit of mystery about the walls. So we're going to take a look at some things here. First up, we're going to look at how effective a wall is against different types of units. Now we have a blitz here, which is, ultimately a raiding bot. You won't really expect to be able to get through a wall with a blitz. And as you can see, they can't really fire over the top of the wall. It's something where they're just going to be hitting the wall and a lot of damage is going to be blocked from it. Now, the big thing I want to mention here is that a single wall costs 8 metal and has almost 3,000 health. That's essentially like a tank. Stout has almost 2,000 health. So for T1, these T1 walls have a really hefty amount of health compared to other things in the game. So it only costs 8 metal, whereas like most of your units cost around 200, 200, 100, 100, 300. So a lot of these other units cost a decent amount of metal, whereas walls are almost insignificant. So insignificant you can just build a million of them and really not be too behind. Because I mean, let me see. Having how many walls is this? This only costs 200 metal for all these walls. The total cost in walls here is a little bit more than one tank. Okay, now the question we have to ask is, are we going to receive enough value out of these walls to pay for one tank worth of value? And I'm going to try to show a reason why I believe that answer is yes. Okay, first off, all the raiding units are unable to attack beyond the wall. And in a normal multiplayer game, they would shoot, but they would shoot at the wall and the wall would block most of the shots. So these would become ineffective until a hole is broken through in the wall, or they would have to go around the wall to the opposite side to actually do some attacks. Now, you may ask, well, if you can go around the wall, then why is the wall effective? Like, what's the point? Here is a big thing about this. You have limited the zone of attack to 2 areas and until these have been destroyed. Okay, so this means that now you can put all of your tanks here and all of your tanks here, and you will have defended the area and there will be no like raiding bots getting through. Okay, so it really eliminates the option for players to try to manipulate the terrain to their advantage by having a tank worth of metal placed down in a wall. Okay, another reason that they are well, let's look at some of the reasons why they are not the best. Okay, so obviously it will block the shot of a blitz, it'll block the shot of a pawn, it'll block the shot of a tick. That's kind of expected. And it will limit the raiding bots travel to have to be in certain areas that might be easier to deal with if they're in a single lump location. Okay, now this is something that walls are not so good for, and that is blocking plasma shots, which this guy should, maybe this isn't even a good example. There we go. This guy can shoot over the wall, and so you're not gonna, if you're up against a bunch of plasma units, you're not really gonna get the full value out of a wall. So I wouldn't say that it would be good to do every game. This is for specific situations that you're gonna want to use these. Okay, let's look at a centurion. I believe these can't fire over. No, they can't fire over the wall either. So you're blocking a lot of the main units in the game, especially for bots. if you're up against bots, you can eliminate their ability to engage largely just by building some walls. The plasma bot's the only exception to that, which are one of the staples in the game. Now, a Janus, on the other hand, is going to easily lob that rocket right over the top, right? So that'll be, you're not going to be getting very much value out of if you're up against Januses, because it's just, the Janus punches such a big hole. And look, we can even shoot the wall and see how much damage that'll do. It does about a quarter. So if you have 4 Januses, you can bust a hole in the wall instantly, right? So that's pretty, that's a pretty big deal. And if the enemy is comprised entirely out of Januses and maybe even stouts, it might not be the most effective thing. And I'm not trying to say you should build these walls in all of your games. I'm just trying to give you an example of when you might want to build them and when you might see an advantage happen with them. So the stout is going to be able to lob shots over as well. Boom, no problem. Okay. And that's really it. You know, those are the main basic units. Now, another thing that's interesting is most units cannot, most T2 units cannot walk through a wall. See, look at this. A gunslinger has to go around the wall. Now, the welder also has to go around the wall. Same with the hounds. So it can limit travel, and that's really the main thing with walls that I want to push, is you can limit the travel of your enemy for very low cost, and that might help you defend against pushes a little bit easier. Now these guys are where it really comes into play, less so with snipers but more so with the T1 like missile units. That would be the Whistler. Okay, the Whistler cannot shoot through this wall, and it also does very low damage of 19 DPS. So if you're up against an army of Whistlers which have incredible range, all you really need is a line of walls to defend your units. Like, you could just defend all of your units with a simple line of walls right here, and the Whistler is going to chip away at the wall, but it's not going to be able to break through. Like, even if you have 5 of them shooting at a wall, it's not going to do enough damage to really matter, because it's up against 3,000 health just for one little block. And if you really wanted to go nuts, you could double layer it and you'd be basically impenetrable. Same with the Rocketeer. The Rocketeer would not be able to harass any of these units because of the rocket being blocked by the wall and not doing enough damage to actually matter. Now, another thing that's really cool is the fact that they have a really high health means that they're going to repair faster than if you were repairing a unit. So the walls will be taking maybe more damage than other units will, but you can also repair them really fast. So what you might want to look into doing is grabbing a repair tower, if you do end up going for this strategy, and doing a couple repair towers across the way. So what I would recommend on this strategy, if you do end up using walls, is to build only plasma units, completely plasma units, because that means you can lob your shots over the walls and retain protection from fire of longer range. So the harassment is now pointless on their side. And then also, like, I did forget to mention, the sniper does block his shot too. You can see, you get closer, he can shoot. You put it further away and he's not going to be able to shoot it because the wall is blocked. But a sniper will kill a wall in one shot anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. Anyway, so build your army largely out of plasma units if you are going for walls, and you can lob the shots over while the enemy is trying to harass you. They won't be able to effectively. And if you combine that with 1 or 2 repair towers, then they'll take care of all the walls and keep them maintained and repair your units if for some reason some damage does happen to them. And another thing you can do in combination with this is to build a lightning pop-up, okay, or a flame pop-up. these guys are incredibly good. um I'm gonna make a video later showing you a trap that I use in order to trick your enemy into getting completely demolished by lightning pop-ups. But I won't say it's effective necessarily, or even that it's like a not wasteful in metal, because it is a little bit wasteful in metal, but it is incredibly fun to watch them run and be completely surprised. So we'll be making a video on that later. But the dragon's claw is not going to be able to take direct damage. They're going to have to break through these walls first before hitting your pop-up turret. Another benefit, by the way, of the pop-up turrets is the fact that they are jammed. They have radar jamming, which they don't really show the symbol here, which is a bit of a shame, but these cannot be seen from radar on the map. So things like artillery pieces will have to manually target these versus automatically targeting them through their radar signature. So that's a huge plus. Okay, so that's the basics of T1 walls. Is there are several units that can't even shoot over the top. I'm wondering, actually, can this guy? Nope, this guy can't shoot over the top of a wall either. The plasma bots obviously can. The gunslinger, I would imagine, can. Wow, the gunslinger cannot. I am actually surprised. Okay. Very interesting. All right, well, now you know it can defend against a gunslinger even. So, yeah, check the walls out, try to use them in some of your games and see if you like them. If you don't, you don't have to change anything. I'm just giving this out here because I don't think very many players know that much about walls, and I just want to give a little bit more in depth on the T1 walls. Now we're moving on to the T2 walls. These are equally valuable in the late game, in my opinion. So you got lighter units like the Razorback. These are all T3 units here. Lighter units like the Razorback and the Marauder, and they cannot go through walls. They have to go around walls. So in the canyon, a couple, you know how you'll get pushed sometimes on All That Glitters by Marauders? Build a few walls here and you can instantly stop a push of Marauders just by having these up beforehand. Because what happens is when a Marauder push, usually what will happen is the player will select their unit and say, go attack here, you know, just go fight this way. And so the Marauder will just automatically start microing around your walls. So the push will get offset and have to go around you into your base rather than going straight into your base. Now, this can be helpful because it buys you some extra time. You could even wall all the way off to here if you really wanted to, or, you know, up further as well, wall these areas just to make it so that you don't have to deal with that Marauder push. Now, obviously, it can be a bit tough because you might not have T2 up and you might be struggling for metal, but if you end up having the option to and you have what is required, it could be very handy. So another thing that's really nice about these T2 walls is, for one, the health. It's about 9,000 health per wall and only a cost of 40 metal. So all of these is 1,700 metal. So a bit more of a significant cost, right? It's not as free. It's a bit less than a Razorback. It's half the cost of a Razorback. But if you built walls all the way around, it would be about the cost of a Razorback. And this is where, you know, you have to question, is that even going to be worth it? And maybe. I would say as the game is going, it would probably become more worth it, especially for defending your heavy lasers like the Pulsar. Not so much the Bulwark, because the Bulwark has smaller laser fire all the way down the turret, whereas the Pulsar has a single shot up on the top. So this can still shoot over it very easily. So that's very handy at defending, and it creates a bit of an extra health boost. It essentially triples the health, because you got 8,000 or 9,000 health here, plus another 6,000 health, and you've essentially tripled your health for your Pulsar. So that's pretty good, and it's not even that significant of a cost. These These guys, if I can select them. Can I unselect that? No, I can't. Anyway, these guys don't cost hardly anything. 1600 metal. So that's like a little, it's like buying a blitz, and you can defend your pulsar with the cost of a blitz and make it much more resistant to any type of fire. Now, things that can easily deal with walls, T2 walls in the game would be like heavy artillery pieces, such as this. The Vanguard will easily be able to lob shots over. And even like the T2 missile trucks and T2 artillery pieces will likely be able to lob over these walls pretty easily. But you can defend against more like light tanks and heavier tanks trying to lob plasma over. They're not going to be able to get it over the T2 walls. And so yeah, quite significant health as well, even more than a lunkhead, which is not surprising because lunkheads are garbage. So yeah, it blocks the Razorback, it blocks the Marauder, it blocks the lunkhead. Now with the T3 Titan, these things can push right through it, right? But it does cause damage to them. We'll see how much. Oh, it actually, I stand corrected. The T3 does not take damage from these. I thought for sure it did. I believe the Thor is able to walk through it as well, or the drive through it as well. Yep, it is, and the Thor actually takes damage. It's almost 1% per wall. So yeah, those are obviously the weaknesses. Once you get into late game and a bunch of heavier vehicles and mechs start coming through, they're going to be able to trample your walls a little bit easier, so they'll become less effective. But towards the middle, like later middle game, these could become a bit more effective than what people realize. But I definitely recommend blocking your laser, your like defensive lasers with them, because it's such a no-brainer. It doesn't cost that much metal, and you can achieve a lot of extra health for your main defenses. Anyway, guys, that's it for today. Pretty basic, but very valuable. Check these out. Don't sleep on these units. They're in here for a reason. And try to see if you can find a good value out of the walls in Beyond All Reason. I have been enjoying using them, and on occasion they have given me a tactical advantage. So I hope this was helpful, and I will see you on the battlefield.